Welcome to Impact News. I am Carol Angela Davis, and we're going to begin with affirmative action because, as you know, the Supreme Court ruling recently got rid of affirmative action in college admissions. So guess what, folks? Now Harvard University is being sued, and it will affect all the schools, is being sued over its legacy admissions program. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, legacy admissions program, that means if you're a legacy, if your family member went to Harvard, then you get a preference, okay? It gives priority to families of alumni who have historically been overwhelmingly white. Some people call that affirmative action for white folks, and we already know how much they hate affirmative action. So now let's just get rid of it all, not just a piece of it, okay? So about 70% of Harvard's legacy and donor-related, that's another one, get rid of it, legacy and donor-related applicants are white. That's right, folks. That's the way that plays out. And Harvard's acceptance rate for legacy applicants between 2014 and 2019, folks, it was almost 6 times higher, yes, than the acceptance rate for non-legacy students. Sorry, we're getting rid of that mess, okay? And the lawsuit says removing legacy preferences would increase admissions for applicants of color, adding approximately 1/4 of the white students admitted would not have been admitted if the donor and legacy preferences did not exist. Bye, y'all. See, when you come and you attack because you're so busy trying to take things from people of color, you end up taking it from yourself because the law is the law and the rules are the rules. You want to enjoy affirmative action for yourself, but when everybody else tries to employ it to get ahead, you want to take it away. Well, you succeeded in taking it away, and now it's going to be gone for everybody. Now, we know that Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, is on the case. She did write a dissent to the Supreme Court opinion, and this is what she said. She called the affirmative action decision a tragedy. And it is a tragedy. It's going to be a tragedy, though, for everybody. How about that? All right, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, here's what she said. She said the ruling, quote, rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress, unquote. Well, if we can get rid of white affirmative action, I think we might be able to level the playing field just a little bit in college admissions all over the country. Be careful what you ask for. You might get it. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Welcome to Impact News. I am Carol Angela Davis. Let's begin with some great news. Taco Bell has hired its first ever Black CEO to run its almost 8,000 restaurants worldwide. He's 43-year-old Sean Tresvant. He's taking on the role just 2 years after joining the company as its global chief brand officer. Now, you should know that Taco Bell currently serves over 2 billion customers each year with more than $10 billion in annual revenue. Congratulations to Mr. Sean Tresvant. We should also tell you that Tresvant worked at Nike for 15 years, where he worked as the vice president of marketing and the chief marketing officer for the Jordan brand. Well, we know he's good. He also worked for PepsiCo for 5 years. He had senior level roles and he has expanded his roles to include strategy, food innovation, architecture and design, global communications, and also international business. Tresvant officially begins his role as the new CEO in January 2024. Well, I'm looking for some exciting changes there at Taco Bell. Probably going to spice it up a bit. All right, let's move on. In Mississippi, did you know, we just are concluding our July 4th holiday. Okay, get this. Did you know that the state of Mississippi closed state offices for the Confederate Memorial Day? Oh, yeah. Also for Confederate Heritage Month, but did you know that they did not close the state offices for Juneteenth? Who's surprised? Okay. Confederate Memorial Day and Confederate Heritage Month are recognized, of course, by the governor of Mississippi. That would be Governor Tate Reeves. Of course, he recognizes those dates, okay? But we should also tell you that Black residents make up 38% of Mississippi's population, more than in any other state. Despite that, the state has only one Black representative in Congress and has not elected any Black leaders to the U.S. Senate or statewide office since before the end of Reconstruction in the late 1800s. Okay, wrong governor. Let's get that together there, Mississippi. We know you deserve better than that. All right, let's move on. Are you ready for lab-grown chicken? And yes, you did hear me correctly. The USDA has now approved lab-grown chicken for you to eat. Yuck, and no thank you, I won't be eating it. All right, it has a new ruling that lab-grown chicken it's going to be labeled cell cultivated. So when you see cell cultivated, that means it was grown in a lab. Don't buy it. All right, here's how it works. Lab-grown meat is made by humanely, whatever that means, humanely extracting stem cells from an animal. I would hope that would be a chicken. Then the cells are cultivated in a solution of nutrients, that the animals would normally feed on for nourishment. The process takes 2 weeks. Then the resulting product is removed from the bioreactor, and formed into meat. You better pay attention. There are 2 makers of this so-called meat. One of them is called the Eat Just Company. The other is called Upside Foods. Where's the upside, dude? Okay. Currently, the only country in the world that allows lab-grown meat to be sold commercially is Singapore. And now the U.S. is being stupid. Okay, let's go on. We're going to go to the climate. El Nino is bringing fierce heat. It carries a risk, of course, of resurgent deadly viruses. Now, for those of you who don't know, El Nino is a weather pattern that brings extreme weather. Recorded dengue outbreak on record. About 150,000 suspected cases reported so far this year. Thailand has seen its highest number of dengue cases in 3 years. Cases are also on the rise in Malaysia and Cambodia. Paraguay has reported at least 40 deaths from an ongoing outbreak of chikungunya, and that began last year. So here we go. We'll talk about the ocean. The ocean heat wave in the North Atlantic is the worst in 170 years. The exceptionally warm waters could pose a deadly threat to marine life and impact summer weather in the UK and Europe. Scientists are reportedly astounded at how much the waters have warmed during the past month, folks. So can you say hurricane? That's all I can say, okay? Moving on, researchers are warning that the Amazon rainforest and other ecosystems could collapse very soon. Scientists saying that more than 1/5 of ecosystems worldwide, including the Amazon rainforest, they are all at risk of catastrophic breakdown within a human lifetime. Keep on keeping on, folks. See what happens. We got to stop. Now, let's go to Antarctica, where climate change is hitting Antarctica particularly hard, sparking concerns about irreversible tipping points. Now, remember, what happens in Antarctica does not stay in Antarctica, okay? Because Antarctica, all that is going to spread all over the world. Now, the sea ice is failing to sufficiently replenish itself during the colder months, okay? Scientists are now worrying that Antarctica may be reaching its tipping point of no return, beyond which the polar ecosystem as we know it will not be able to survive. The alarming decrease in sea ice is also a very bad omen for the glaciers, which would become directly exposed to the sun and to the warming ocean and the ocean waters. And of course, that causes them to just melt faster. We're going to take a look at that Thwaites Glacier, which of course we have talked about many times on this show. If that one melts, it will single-handedly increase global sea level rise by 26 inches, which is about 65 centimeters. That's if it melts completely. So there is trouble on the horizon. We have to just change our habits. Now let's go to Texas, where I'll tell you, the governor there is just, I don't know what to say about him. I just don't know what to say. Get this. A new law is going to get rid of water breaks for, did I just talk about record heat? A new law is going to get rid of water breaks for outdoor workers amid extreme heat. Does that make sense? Why don't they just kill them? Because that's what they're trying to do anyway. Right now, ordinances in Dallas and Austin mandate breaks every 4 hours if you are working in extreme heat. But Texas Governor Abbott said not on his watch, folks. He signed House Bill 2127. It goes into effect on September 1st. It puts an end to safeguards such as the ordinance of those cities that allows those workers working in that extreme heat to have those water breaks, okay? Those are for people who are working on construction sites. They have to have at least a 10-minute water break every 4 hours. Now, the new law comes as the South, including much of Texas, as we know, they're both experiencing record heat waves much earlier in the season than normal. Now, get this. San Angelo, Texas, 114 degrees, folks. Del Rio, Texas, 113 degrees. San Antonio, 105 degrees. McAllen, 106 degrees. Rio Grande Village, 118 degrees. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to stop all the construction projects. But this man doesn't have, anyway. Since 2010, you should know that Hispanic workers have accounted for 1/3 of all heat fatalities despite representing just 17% of the U.S. workforce. Does that sound right? Governor Abbott, Texas, get busy and elect somebody who can get the job done. And the job is actually to protect the people, which he's not doing that job. Those are your stories. Stay with me. The slay word for the week is adamant, A-D-A-M-A-N-T. Adamant, it is an adjective, which means it modifies or describes that noun. Its origins in the 1800s, and the definition is refusing to be persuaded or to change one's mind. Let's use it in a sentence. He was adamant about not spending his 60th birthday alone. Okay, sentence number 2. He is adamant that he is not going to resign. Sound familiar? Some of those adamant people about to go to jail. Okay, let's move on. Adamant. Refusing to be persuaded or to change one's mind. Use it in your convos all week. Level up your vocab.
I'm just sick and tired of us not spending time together lately.
I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry I ain't been spending time with you. I've just been working on this big deal. It's gonna bring a lot more money to the household for it.
What you doing here, boss?
Yeah, just checking to see if you still got it.
You take this work. Your partner. I don't want it back.
I've seen the movies, man. I know how this goes.
You see the movies, huh? You see Goodfellas, New Jack City.
Everything I do is for you. Like, I just need a little bit more time, man. Find bullshit. Like I said, he's gonna call any second.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why don't you take a look at this video? Guess what? It's starring you.
Where are you? In our missing segment, we are looking for African American girls who have gone missing, and with your help, we'll find them. She was 17 years old, just 17 years old when she was reported missing, and that happened on February 3rd of this year, and she went missing in Austin, Texas. Now, she's about 5'1" tall. She has black hair, she has brown eyes, and she weighs about 190 pounds. Her name again is Sherelle Walker, 17 years old, missing in February from Austin, Texas. Where are you? We're out there looking for you, and with the community's help, we'll find you. Thank you for staying with us. We are bringing you now your international report with Dr. Inyang Ebong Harstrup. Ini, what you got for us today?
Oh, I want to talk about a report it's a book actually that has come out. It was produced by the Universities of St. Andrew, Manchester, and the University of London, King's College, to be exact. And it looks at the racial situation and context in the United Kingdom. And I'm sorry to say, no progress has not been made. The study basically says that 1 in 3 people, there were 14,000 people in the study, and of that 14,000, 1 in 3 say that they have experienced racially motivated physical or verbal abuse. Okay? More than a quarter of those from the minority ethnic groups, so put Africans, Caribbean, Indians, Pakistanis, all of that group experienced racial insults from almost 1 in 3 experienced racial insults in a public place. 1 in 6 suffered racism from their neighbors, while 17% suffered damage to their properties from their neighbors in racist attacks. It is so, so sad. And, you know, the leader of the study said the kind of equality that they're seeing in the study shows very clearly that it is not a just society. But what is really, really interesting is that the attacks and the racism, the problems with the police, because that was a very high number that experienced high levels of racism in the interaction with the police, that they still hold loyalty and consideration to the British establishment and situation and citizenship. They still believe in the government, they still believe in Parliament.
Wow, it's amazing. And I know you know a lot about that society because you grew up there. But I'll tell you, you know, I noticed the way that they do Meghan Markle, and that is that every single day, without exception, some aspect of the British press says something really bad about her, and they never say anything good. It is truly astonishing.
It is very, very unfortunate because essentially that is what drove her and Prince Harry out of the country, with those relentless attacks. I mean, it's gotten so bad, I don't even bother to click on any of the stories because it's just to click, you read the nonsense. She's this, she's that, she's not producing, she's not doing. The latest thing on the internet is that they'll be divorced in 2 years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Everything you wish.
A lot of it stems from race.
Yeah, and just wishing the people of color to have bad experiences, bad things happen to them. Well, we know the situation over here, so we've got our own battles to fight, and what a battle it is that, of course, we will win. And we wish our brethren over there in the UK to also win. Thank you so much, Eni. That's your international story. We'll see you next week. We'll have more. We always let you know what's going on around the world. Thanks, Eni.
Thanks, Carol.
Stay with us. Here's your financial news, folks. You know, you got to stay on the money. We have to know where the money is, not just our own money, but the country's money. What's going on? Okay, President Biden spending $42 billion for high-speed internet. Okay, it's a high-speed internet initiative. $42 billion is what he's going to spend for. The goal to give every American household access to high-speed internet by 2030, and it's all part of Biden's Invest in America initiative. Now, each state is going to receive a minimum of $107 million. 19 states are going to receive over $1 billion. White House officials are comparing the plan to Franklin D. Roosevelt's efforts to bring electricity to rural America in the 1930s. Now, the funds are already allotted by Congress through that bipartisan infrastructure law. They're going to be divided up over the next 2 years through the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. More than 7% of the country, or more than 8.5 million homes and small businesses, have internet speed that is below the government standards of at least 25 megabits per second for downloads and 3 megabits per second for uploads. So kudos to President Biden. Just another victory for the American people. Let's move on. Experts say it is enormously costly. This is business loan fraud that drove home price inflation in certain markets. They say COVID-19 era paycheck protection program fraud may be to blame. Now, PPP loans were designed to help cover business expenses during the pandemic. We're talking employee payroll, expenses like that. PPP distributed more than $793 billion between April 2020 and May 2021. Previous research from the University of Texas at Austin, those researchers flagged $117.3 billion of the funds as suspicious lending. Apparently, zip codes with high suspicious lending per capita had home price growth that was 5.7% higher than zip codes in the same county with lower levels of fraud. So you should know that U.S. home prices did rise by 24%, people, between November 2019 and November 2021, driven by factors like shifting demand and regional moves. So we know the federal government is looking into that fraud, and if you were a part of it, then you are in trouble. Stay with me.
Anyone who thinks that slavery ended in the 1860s with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation are grievously wrong.
If we caught a bird, we ate through the feathers and ate the bird. We didn't have nothing to cook on. We didn't have no stove. You know who you are and who we are.
We're still on that big plantation.
She was bonded to them until they died. She was their slave.
They said, bro, we're going to be killed tonight.
Could that same white dude keep terrorists there? Or Russian spies? Or the KGB? And the government wouldn't know it? No.
They thought I was beat so bad that I couldn't do nothing, but I did.
We're closing out the show with your health in mind. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Boy, Carol, I want to go way, way back. And there's a book. It's written by Tom Hartman. He's a radio host. But as a side thing, he wrote a book called Walking Your Blues Away. Now, this is a this book might be approaching 20 years old. And what the book is basically saying is the importance of motion and walking to the human mental health. And basically what it says is that when the act of uniting two sides of your body through motion, even if you're not swinging your arms, your legs are moving. And by doing that, you basically put a mixer in your brain. In other words, you bring the right-sided chemicals to the left-sided chemicals and mix them all up. And it's a point of emotional healing from trauma. It's a point of reasoning, working things out, and healing from so many different things, and allowing the brain to really use all of its chemicals, use some of the chemicals that it's stored. And it's just a fantastic book, Walking Your Blues Away. So in the brain, there's something called the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is the notepad for the brain. So all day long, the hippocampus is taking notes. And when we go to bed at night, the hippocampus basically uploads the notepad to the hard drive. And by uploading it to the hard drive, it accesses all these things into the hard drive of the brain, and then the hard drive can digest it. The hard drive can do the laundry. The hard drive can put it in perspective. The hard drive can put it in your memory. It can do all of that. And that's how we heal. And some people say, you know, I woke up and I just felt better. Or I exercise and I feel so much better. And this is what the book is about.
You know, so I know several people who suffer from anxiety. They swear every time they walk, they feel better.
Yes. And that's because, again, even if you're not moving your arms, your left leg and your right leg are moving. And when you do that, you are uniting the two hemispheres of the brain. So remember, we always say, oh, so-and-so is right brain, they're emotional. So-and-so is left brain, you know, they're analytical. But when you put the two together, you've got a powerful, powerful force. And it's very important that we put the two together. And we can do that by many different exercises, the most simple of which is walking.
Interesting. So interesting. Yeah. You bring us so much interesting information. And we want you to know that Dr. K is going to talk more and more about her experiences and why she says the things she says in the coming weeks. So Dr. K, thank you so much. I'm Carol Angela Davis. This is Impact News from all of us here at the Impact family. We thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dr. K.
Thanks for having me.
See you next week.